Hello and welcome to Meet the Candidates, Town of Rye 2011. I'm excited to have with me today three very important individuals here in the Town of Rye. I've been very lucky to serve on the board with both Joe and Bob, and before I get started, I'm going to give them a quick introduction. With me to my left, I have Rye Town Supervisor Joseph Carvin. I have Rye Town Councilman Robert Nioris, and a fresh face to the Town of Rye, Christina Collins. What I'd like to know right away is, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Thank you, Billy, and thank you for watching. I grew up in Portchester. I went to Portchester schools. I then went on to Tulane University, got an MBA from New York University, an MPA from Harvard, and basically I'm now married with 3 children, living in Rye Brook. I've been your town supervisor for the last 4 years. It's been an honor and privilege to serve you, and I'd very much like to get your support to continue to build on the accomplishments we've had over the last 4 years.
Thank you. Bob?
I myself have graduated from Portchester High School. I have a BS degree in chemical engineering. I have an MBA in corporate finance. I've worked for the past 30 years as a management consulting, improving operations of multinational corporations throughout the world. I've been your councilman for the last 4 years. I'm looking forward to continue the progress we've made thus far and continue to improve the operations in the town and lower the tax burden for the citizens of the town of Rye.
There's our fresh face to the Town of Rye, Christina.
Well, I graduated from Iona College with a degree in public relations, and that's something that I certainly hope to be able to utilize if I am elected to the town board of the Town of Rye. My husband and I live in Portchester, and we run a website design company specializing in digital media and companies that have very content-heavy concerns. And I think that that business experience that I have gained by operating my own business, by being a homeowner, is something that could really be an asset to the Town of Rye.
Thank you. And thanks for being with me today. The first question, and I think that a lot of people want to know, you were elected 4 years ago, and you were elected to do a very specific job, and that was really get the Town of Rye back on track. So quickly tell me, Bob, what did you find back when you took office 4 years ago?
Well, when we took office, we found a lot of the procedures and processes were in a state of disarray. We found that a lot of things that they should be done from a corporate perspective, or what typically is done in corporate America, weren't being done. Business practices, just standard business practices, weren't being followed in the Town of Rye. So one of the things we looked at doing is implementing some improvements in the business processes, like implementing a new procurement policy that could help us in terms of lowering our overall tax by going out for competitive bid on various contracts and services that hadn't been done heretofore in the Town of Rye. So we were able to do that, and in one instance, i.e. the tax assessment process, we were able to shave like almost $1 million off the cost of doing a reassessment of the Town of Rye. Very good. Joe?
Well, yeah, I think that's absolutely right. In fact, look, it's very clear. The #1 challenge to our communities is the unsustainable tax burden. Now, why is that? Westchester County is the highest property tax county in the nation. Why is that? I think a lot of times it's because the local municipal officials don't manage their business as well, or their community as well. And that's exactly what we found in the Town of Rye. The previous administration failed 3 successive New York State audits. They'd overspent their budget 10 years in a row. They didn't publish financial statements on a timely basis. What did we do? The first thing we did was act quickly to restore fiscal integrity to the town. In our first year of office, we were able to reduce expenditures by 27%, by over $1 million. Now, what does that mean? Over the course of 4 years, that means we saved over $4 million. That $4 million can fund the town for a period of 500 days or a year and a half, just on our savings alone. That's an extraordinary accomplishment. And if each municipality was able to do that, then clearly our tax burden would be reduced.
Christina, hearing what both Bob and Joe are saying and what they've experienced, how do you see yourself fitting into what the Town of Rye has undergone over the last 4 years, and then going forward, what do you see happening?
Well, I'm continually impressed by the amount of accomplishments that have been made over the last 4 years. And even though I get to hear these accomplishments all the time, it's still absolutely shocking that the town was in such a state of disarray that so much needed to happen, and they made it happen. And I think that what I could bring to the table so that all those accomplishments can keep moving forward is my organizational skills, my ability to read a budget and work within one, and certainly my familiarity with modern day technology, so that things can always operate at an efficient, rate, and make sure that things are being always moved down the road effectively and efficiently at all times.
Thank you. Joe, from your background, obviously incredibly strong financial background and best business practices, you wouldn't function without that. With applying that to the town of Rye, what have you learned about the actual operations or how to operate a town?
Well, that's actually a very good question. The town of Rye is unusual. It's important that people understand it's primarily an administrative entity. The villages provide garbage, police, and fire, the normal service you expect from a municipality. So we're primarily administrative. We assess and collect taxes and run 2 parks. So it seems like, we have a small budget, $4 million basically. But the interesting thing is we have an outsized impact in our community for a couple of reasons. We collect us $160 million in taxes. That's the first thing. So we have to be there to defend with our assessments the tax take for the town and guarantee the taxes. The second thing is we run a park, Rye Town Park. It's actually a small seasonal business with 70 employees. So we got it when we first last year, the previous administration, they lost $450,000. We've gotten that down to an average loss every year of $100,000. So it's basically trying to make American government as efficient as American business.
Bob, same question.
Well, so a couple of things we did in order to improve the operations in Town of Rye. I mentioned the procurement policy that we implemented in eliminating no-bid contracts, so we went to competitive bid. We also implemented an ethics policy where we eliminated cronyism and nepotism in terms of hiring practices in the Town of Rye. Also looked at improving operations in the tax collection process. We implemented the first lockbox operation for the Town of Rye. That helped us reduce some costs. We also implemented payment of your taxes over the internet, both by ACH and by credit card. So we're trying to provide some additional services to the town residents, as well as reducing the tax burden on the town. I also worked on implementing an IT infrastructure and a new website for the town. So if you go out to the website, it's a completely new look, hopefully more friendly, more usable to the town residents.
One thing I've heard over the past couple of years specifically is how the town of Rye really has changed their face, as a local government. The websites have been updated. We've been more user-friendly. The transparency has been, I would say, second to none. And more importantly, I think that we're also using some social media now by where the residents of the town of Rye can access our resources, which is really their resources.
Exactly.
The parks, right? And things of that nature.
Well, if I could just, say our mantra and motto when we came was transparency, integrity, community. And we've worked very, very hard to achieve that transparency. We've always tried to act with integrity with a view towards the community. Now, one of the reasons I'm so happy to have Christina working with us is she is at the cutting edge of the technology movement, the social media movement. And I'm very confident she's going to help us continue to improve in that vein.
Well, I will have to give you credit where credit's due, though, because as a resident of the town of Rye, I have followed, the last 4 years very closely, and I have seen the change in the website. And as a taxpayer, I can go online, and I have utilized or at least I've checked out the credit card options, and it is a much more user-friendly interface that you have for the Town of Rye website. And I was recently privy to the new Facebook site that the Town of Rye is going to be launching, and it's, everything that has been done has been forward-thinking and innovative and right there on the cutting edge of technology, and I give you all kudos for that, and I can't wait to see what I can bring to the table to keep that moving forward.
Christina, everything I'm hearing from you right now is really just keeping this conversation growing at a great pace, is that we're talking about progress.
Yeah.
Okay? And the town of Rye, like Supervisor Carver mentioned earlier, the town of Rye, if it continued to function the way it did 4 years ago, really would not be sustainable. Okay? We would be in a much worse situation than the worst communities that are out there. And part of this, there was an initiative that came about just about 4 years ago, just by coincidence, I don't think so, is the Model American Community. And under this umbrella, it kind of seems that all of this initiatives, all these initiatives, and everything that the department heads are doing, everything that the board is doing, and all of the partnerships that have been created over the past 4 years are striving to make the town of Rye a model American community. So, Bob, what does that mean to you?
Well, I know Joe's been leading the bandwagon on that, so to speak, but the model American community means to me is, if you think back to the 1600s when the first settlers came into this area in the town of Rye and formed the town of Rye in 1660, they had to really band together, help each other out, and try to improve the community at that time. So everybody pitched in, everybody helped, they self-governed themselves, and they ran the community in a very and most efficient manner at the time because they didn't have a lot of things to run the town with. And I think that we want to try and get back to some of those roots where we're working where there's a lot of community service, a lot of people in the town helping each other out and contributing to the community as a whole.
Part of that, what I'm hearing, is that it translates into maybe some of these IMAs, these intermunicipal agreements. In a model American community does not really just depend on itself, but model American communities that can look to pull some support from neighboring communities, try to identify new sources of revenue, maybe some public-private partnerships, the opportunity to share services and personnel. And these are important decisions that need to be made if the town of Rye is going to continue this progress, as Christina mentioned. Joe, tell us what your vision of a model American community is.
Well, look, in order to have a model American community, first of all, you have to have sustainable taxes. So you don't have any kind of model American community if our seniors are forced to leave, if only the richest of the rich can afford to stay. So the first thing you got to do is get the tax burden under control. Second thing is, at the town, we're fully committed to having best practice government. We want each of our departments to be the model for New York State, be it assessment, be it tax receivers, clerk. We want our employees to be the best of the best. But most importantly, as Bob was saying, we want our community to be self-supportive. Why not provide an environment where every one of the citizens of the town of Rye has an environment and an infrastructure in which they can achieve their highest self? And that's really the view for the community. Why not achieve the highest self? And this is really an outgrowth of our Rye 350 celebrations. We were founded, as Bob said, in 1660. We had 350 years. What do we want the town of Rye to look like 350 years in the future? Well, it may not, and then finally, just the last point you mentioned was working together with local municipal officials. I'm thrilled to report that we received a grant from New York State, $50,000, to study, actually, the elimination of the town of Rye, or the dissolution of the town of Rye, if that restructuring serves to help and reduce our tax burden. Everyone at this table is prepared to work themselves out of a job if the consultant that we've hired in an apolitical, objective analysis determines that the taxpayer will benefit from that. The other thing they're going to be looking at is increased sharing of services. So how do we work with the other municipalities to improve the sharing of services? So we're fundamentally committed to reducing the tax burden, achieving best practice government, and seeing what we can do to bring all the various groups together into our community to make it a model American community that the rest of the nation can look up to.
Christina, building on the comments from both Bob and Joe, where do you see yourself fitting in to this board and really hitting the ground running? Because this is an incredibly progressive board, and they've taken great strides in making the town of Rye the best it can be as a local government.
Well, I think that the minute you stop saying that you're striving for something and you become, you just accept it for what it is, that's failure. So you have to keep always moving. You have to keep striving to be the best. We want to be the best we can be, like you said, the model American government. And in order to do that, you always have to keep reaching. To be the best, you have to keep going forward. So yes, we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to keep on the same steady path that these guys have set for the past 4 years that you've been a part of. And, we're going to just keep on going with it. David Gelfarb is moving on, and he's moving up to the county level. We hope to see him get there, and I hope to fill his shoes very quickly and very successfully.
So we've identified what you've experienced. We've talked about where we are now, and we've had some insight of what we think the town of Rye can be. But going forward, there's always going to be some obstacles, some challenges. It could be, people that just, are against you. or it could be bureaucracy. And I know that a lot of change has tried to take place on a local level, try to change legislation on a state level. And Joe, let's talk about that legislation that's been proposed from the town of Rye.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about outsized impact to the town. One of the really important things is we were one of the first reval communities. And we haven't really derived the benefits that we anticipated from becoming a reval community. The principal reason being, well, fairly technical, certiorari challenges were supposed to come down. That's the challenges from commercial enterprises versus the town. So what do? We worked very closely with Assemblyman Latimer, very closely with State Senator Oppenheimer, to get new legislation to make it easier for the town to defend itself from those certiorari challenges. Now, we're not defending it for ourselves, we're defending it for the schools. So we're able to improve the schools. The other thing we did in terms of just procedural reforms, in the previous 10 years there hadn't been any in-rem proceedings. So what we did is, again, always trying to generate revenue for the taxpayers. We generated $6 million in uncollected taxes, improved the tax equity and fairness, which again is the whole reason for the reval, basically through our in-rem proceedings. So, you know, we're an administrative entity, and it's fundamentally important that we be as efficient as we can. And that's why I'm so thrilled, quite frankly, to be on this panel with you and serving on the board, but with Bob and Christina, because I think we bring a professionalism, a business-minded approach to government that makes it as efficient as it can be, so that every tax dollar that comes in is spent as well as it could be.
Supervisor Carvin talked about the legislation. We talked about in rem, you know, collecting $6 million, you know, of taxpayer money that was just left out there in no man's land and really was forgotten about by the prior administration. And ultimately, that's unconscionable. Now, Bob, where do you see your challenges going forward, or maybe the challenges of the board going forward to be progressive?
Well, I think they're in a number of different areas. First of all, as was stated previously, Westchester County is the highest tax property county in the nation. And I think we looked for ways in the town to try and reduce the property tax burden on the citizens of the town of Rye. I think going forward, as we had mentioned earlier, we need to look at how we can share some services in some of the other towns. So I think one of the things that we want to look at doing, and this was what will come out of this solution study that's being conducted right now, is are there opportunities to share services with some of the other municipalities in the town where we can leverage, good business practices that we've implemented here in the town and consolidate services such that we can help affect the tax burden in some of the other municipalities. So in the villages and I don't know, maybe the school districts, perhaps some other areas.
I just want to brag on my fellow councilman, Mr. Muir, for a second. I mean, private corporations pay him several $1,000s a day to do just that, to consolidate and share services. To have him on our board is an extraordinary achievement. And the fact that he's prepared to take and volunteer his time to do that just makes it very much fun and gives me great hope for our shared service
Part of giving back to the community.
Thank you. The part of the challenges that I'm seeing, and I'd like to have Christina weigh in on this, is that with any restructuring, with any large endeavor, there's going to be the opportunity where you may not have the resources, okay, to make these changes. We see that Councilman Nioris put together a very detailed capital plan. And where do you see the town of Rye achieving some of these capital plan goals?
Well, in terms of like the parks and the bridges, I mean, it's a real difficult scenario. I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for the next 4 years, is to figure out where to come up with these funds to improve the capital structures that need attention. They've been neglected for many, many years. I think they have just been ignored because it's such a big project that you almost don't know where to begin with it. But I did see the capital improvement plan Bob put together, and it is very detailed, and it's something we need to undertake and address. But where do we get the money from without raising the taxes, right? It's a tough one. But I don't think this board wants to raise the taxes, so I think we're going to have to dig deep, get very creative, pull on all of our different professional experiences, and sit down and just brainstorm. And I'm very confident we're going to come up with some excellent ideas on how to how to accomplish all the capital improvements that need to happen in the town of Rye.
Part of that creativity that I've seen over the past couple of years was this beautiful partnership with Lisa Easton, okay, and through her efforts, the ability to work with some granting opportunities for Rye Town and the Rye Town Park specifically, which is absolutely beautiful, and we always invite everybody to please come down to Rye Town Park. It truly is the jewel of Westchester, and Joe, tell us a little bit what we're trying to accomplish over there. First, the first step was trying to get the roof, completed, and what that does is protect the structure. But what about some forecasting in the future? What do you think is happening there?
Well, look, I got to say, we jointly run the park, as you know, with Rye City, and I've very much enjoyed working with both Rye City Mayor Steve Otis and the most recent administration, Mayor French. And Mayor French did an excellent job of channeling that extraordinarily strong Rye City human resource into terms of helping us run the park and manage the park. So one of the achievements I'm most proud of is that we reduced the number of cars coming into Rye Town Park by 250 spaces. So it used to be that Rye Town Park was a parking lot on a big sunny day. Now people are happy to go in. So we've improved the safety, improved the environment, improved the aesthetic, and managed to maintain the operating loss in the $100,000 range. Going forward, I think there's a big challenge at Rye Town Park to come up with those capital expenditures, but it's a one-of-a-kind facility. It's an absolute best-kept secret in Westchester County, and I'm confident we can find the private-public partnerships that are required to renovate that. Our first expenditure was the roof, so we've stabilized the building with $1.4 million in capital expenditures, and now we're still going to need another $12 million or so in capital expenditures for the whole of the infrastructure of the park, but I'm confident we'll be able to do that. The Children's Museum is a good example of monies coming in. Playland has just gone through a process that we're looking to emulate at the Town of Rye, and if reelected, we'll launch that process as soon as I'm reelected.
Bob, you've worked very closely with the Town of Rye, the parks, capital projects. Give us a quick overview of what your take is regarding Rye Town Park and Crawford Park.
Well, first of all, I think they're two beautiful parks, and I'm very proud of those parks. I think we've either maintained or in many cases improved the functioning of the parks and the beautification of those parks. So I think that's wonderful. We've also been able to reduce the expenditures both at Crawford Park and Rye Town Park by hundreds of thousands of dollars over the previous administration while maintaining the same level of service and beautifying the park at the same time.
Christina, you've mentioned in the past about the community involvement, the volunteerism, and the partnership between these human resources like the Friends of Crawford Park, the Friends of Rye Town Park. Where do you see volunteerism and these really inter-community initiatives benefiting these parks?
I see it everywhere I look. I think that the town of Rye has an incredible resource. We have so many different charitable organizations, not-for-profit organizations that are actually about improving our quality of life in the town of Rye. I was at an event this past Saturday the Friends of Crawford put on. I mean, these people are truly dedicated to improving our parks so that they can use them, so that the public can use them. And I think that these organizations are willing to help us in any way that we need them to. I think they'll be willing to help and step up when we need them to improve the parks, to improve whatever we need. We just have to find the right people to work with. They're there, they're willing, and I think that together we could really work with the community to continue to better the town of Rye.
Everybody knows this election is not going uncontested. So you have three opponents that are challenging you. And for the most part, and what I've experienced over the past couple decades is that most candidates are well-intentioned. Your opponents, I think, are well-intentioned. But where do you differentiate yourself from your opponents? Why should they vote for Team Carvin? Well,
I think it's pretty straightforward. We've been in office for 4 years and have a track record of success. I like our opponents. They all seem like nice people, and I'm glad that they're looking to benefit from community service or participate. That being said, none of them have ever been to a town meeting. None of them have any municipal experience. And I think it's important. We're about to launch a process where we're going to give serious consideration to the dissolution of the town of Rye. That is a difficult process to navigate the town through because it may be eliminated, it may not. So I think the 4 years of experience that we've generated and having Christina come onto the team brings the team together with real knowledge to finish the process that we started. And so I think that our experience base, our knowledge base accumulated over the 4 years, our business and professional background, and the vision we have. You know, we have been at the forefront of changing local government, and that you need that drive, you need that push, and you need that vision. And you need that sense of urgency.
Bob, we've seen campaigns in the past, and candidates need to educate themselves, whether it be by going to meetings, whether it be by serving on boards, being involved in the process so you can understand what you very well may be inheriting if you take office. What's your opinion?
Well, I haven't seen them show up to a single board meeting as well. So I would concur with Supervisor Carvin. If I were serious about running for office, I would make sure I got involved either through a board or attended meetings to find out what's happening in the town. I'm sure these are good people. I don't know them personally, and I'm sure they have the best intentions. But if I were running for office, I would educate myself on what I need to know in order to make the town better in this particular instance. So I haven't seen them. I don't know what their platform is. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, we have a vision. You know, we know where we want to take the town. You know, we want to make it a model American government. We want to reduce taxes. We want to bring professional business practices to the town so we can keep taxes low and make it a sustainable municipality. So we have that. We want to take it forward. We want to progress it. I haven't seen anything from our opposition in terms of what they want to do with the town at this point in time.
Christina, we're just about to wrap up the program. I want you to take a moment, let the residents, let the taxpayers know why they need to elect you.
All right. Here's the thing. I am 100% committed to the town of Rye. I am a homeowner who is looking to protect the investment I have made in this community. And the best way to protect the investment in my home is to get involved. And I'm getting involved. I'm stepping up. I'm doing it. I want to be the voice for my neighbors, my friends in the neighborhood, for the people that I haven't met yet and the people I've met on this campaign trail. I'm willing to do it. I have a great team to work with, and I'm very excited for the opportunity.
Bob.
Well, we mentioned all the things that we have accomplished over the past 4 years. I'll just run through them really quickly. We implemented a new procurement policy in order to help us reduce some of our tax dollars in terms of going out for professional services and other types of contracts. We implemented a new ethics policy. One thing I didn't mention before, we implemented a new personnel policy. We eliminated lifetime benefits for part-time officials. We implemented a new tax collection policy, new IT infrastructure, new IT website. These are some of the professional business management practices that we've brought to the table. I think there's a few more things that we need to do to improve the town's operations. And going forward, we need to think about how we might share some services with some of the other municipal governments in the town of Rye and further reduce the tax burden on the citizens of the town of Rye.
Thank you, Joe.
A lot of people talk about reducing taxes. We've done it. We have a track record of success. If you look at the other politicians, they're talking about we've reduced the rate of increase. We generated real savings that could run the town for a year and a half for nothing, just out of our savings alone. And we're fully committed to reducing expenditures even further, reducing the tax burden on our community, best practice government, model American community.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us and watching this segment. I want to thank Supervisor Carvin, Councilman Nioris, and new candidate to the town of Rye, Christina Collins, for being here with me. I want to remind the taxpayers and the residents in the town of Rye to vote on November 8th for Team Carvin. You can find them on rows B, C, or D. You can vote at your regular polling places all day long, and regardless of what your political affiliation may be, vote for Team Carvin, because they're the ones that are going to take the town of Rye into our future. You can't afford not to have them elected. Thank you.